Hey everybody, just wanted to give you a new episode of Pod Hacks Only, the YouTube edition. I gave you guys an episode for the podcast, just the audio version, sometime last week, I think a week ago now. And we're right in the thick of summer camp, right? Now we're getting towards the tail end of summer camp as we are now looking at 5 days away from Major League Baseball starting, from the Nationals and the Yankees kicking things off at National Stadium and the Dodgers and Giants kicking the West Coast off in Dodger Stadium. It's going to be really exciting. We have today, it's the first time we're actually going to have two teams going head to head. It's going to be the first real games going on. Now, they are exhibition games are not counted. That's why it's not the start of the season, but it is the first time. So since we started summer camp, right, there's just been inter-squad scrimmages, all those different things going on. Now we have games happening. We have the Yankees and the Mets facing each other in Citi Field, and we have the Indians and the Pirates facing each other. And if you have MLB.tv, it is available there. You can also buy MLB.tv. It's at a discounted rate for the 2020 season for, I think, obvious reasons at this point. So if you guys want to check it out, you guys can watch those games there. It'll be real exciting. You can also listen to it on radio. And a lot of these teams are streaming these games live on their Twitter and on their Facebook streams, right? I've watched the Dodgers play a few times. I've seen the Red Sox. Just a bunch of different teams have been on there showing those to you guys if you want to watch baseball. It's a little different. It's a lot of fun. You see a lot of different new characters kind of coming out, as far as you see players that are fringe players that usually you see in spring or in the minors trying to make their way in. You get to see them a little bit more during these inter-squad games. You also get to see Chico, who is the Dodgers clubhouse attendant who got a chance to play defensively in left field. Shows that he has a gun. He is somebody who had played college baseball. He has somebody that has a history with the team and been with the team for a long time. Actually had a tryout for the Dodgers at one point. So he's not like some slouch, but he is a clubhouse attendant, someone that usually wouldn't get a chance to play with the Dodgers and did. And the players love him. The clubhouse and the organization loves him. That's why he got the opportunity. So it's awesome to see. So if you see hashtag Let Chico Hit, you know what I'm talking about there. But let's get into this episode. Let's talk about summer ball. Okay, before we start this episode, remember to like and subscribe. Give it a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and hit the notification button as well while you're at it. And if you want to leave a comment, I will do my best to get back to every comment that is real. I think there's some bots that have snuck in every now and again. But if there is some legitimate comments, I'll do my best to reach out to you. As always, you can follow me on Instagram at JustAReyes, Twitter at JustAReyes13. You can go to my website, justareyes.com, or send me an email, info@justareyes.com. And all that will be in the episode description. So if you're wondering where how to spell Just A Reyes over and over and over again, that'll be there in the description. So let's talk about summer baseball. So the plans for baseball to get going all go around, right, COVID, right, as everything else does. And it goes around with testing. And we've seen testing affect a lot of different teams. We've seen Freddie Freeman test positive and have a fever and all those different things. And he was late to the Braves camp. It's reported yesterday that him and Touki Toussaint, one of their pitchers, have been cleared to return and have returned to the Braves. But it's been one of those Catch-22 type seasons, so it was a Catch-22 type day for the Braves. They get those two guys back, right, which is huge. I mean, Freddie Freeman's arguably the best first baseman in all of baseball, at the very least top 5, right? You have Touki Toussaint, who's a very, very good young pitcher. You get those guys back. But on the flip side, you've had Nick Markakis opt out. You've had another young guy get hurt for them the other week. So they bring in Yasiel Puig. They sign him to a deal. Yasiel Puig tests positive for COVID. Deal is null and void. Well, that's the report. I've seen another report saying that he told them that he was around somebody that had COVID, had tested positive. So he flew to Miami to get tested, and then he became up positive, so the deal is not technically done. But that conflicts with a lot of different reports. So we don't really know there. We just know that Yasiel Puig, for the moment, will not be a Brave. The chances are he will have to wait at least a couple weeks, and then a team will maybe have to take a flyer on him. Is he ready? Is he in game shape? That'll be the determination at that point. So Yasiel Puig may end up opting out of the season unintentionally because he ended up testing positive for COVID, which is unfortunate because he is asymptomatic as per report. He feels good. He feels fine. He's ready to play. But it's the nature of 2020 at this point. It's been a very, very wild year. You've also seen teams like, say, the Dodgers. They had Gavin Lux show up a little bit late. Now, he never said that he tested positive, but the feeling is that he did. Another guy that showed up at the same time as him is A.J. Pollock. Now, A.J. Pollock made some very interesting statements yesterday that I felt like I should share with you guys right now. He had just had a child born 3 months premature just recently in the last few weeks. at that same time, he did test positive for COVID-19, and he had a fever and he had symptoms. So it's one of those things where he couldn't even really be there with them. It was a rough situation for him, and at that time, he was ready to opt out, and he was not going to play the season. And I think at that point, everyone can understand that, right? And I mean, the way it is, if you don't want to play this year because it's abbreviated, because of the pandemic, because you have family, you have all these different things, you don't necessarily need an excuse on why you don't need to play. But when excuses, as far as excuses go, this is a pretty good one right here from AJ Pollock. What changed his mind was his wife. His wife told him basically, you see this team that the Dodgers have put together. You're to be a big part of that. How are you going to feel if you spent your whole career fighting and grinding, and you watch your team celebrate a World Series title while you're sitting here on the couch? And that kind of changed his mind. And that's strong words from a woman who appears to be very, very strong, because he wanted to be home for her to take care of her, and she's saying, I can handle this. You go play. You go handle the next 3 months. Then when the season's over, you come home and you take care of us. And that's a tough draw. I mean, this is not an easy decision for anybody. And I get the people that are saying that, well, the military sacrifices this when they go away, all these different things. They signed up for those things, right? It's never easy. It's never easy. It's never easy at the point where you see most people that are military are younger before they have families. Now you're looking at guys with families. You're looking at Buster Posey, who decided to opt out. Buster Posey has recently adopted two twin baby girls. They were born prematurely, and they've been in the NICU. They're doing well, but they're still very premature. They're still in the hospitals, those different things. Buster Posey, no offense to the Giants, but the Giants just not going to competing for a title this year. That's just the reality of it. Not to say that they don't have some talent, not to say that they can't turn things around the next few years, but this team, as it's built right now, is in a rebuild. They're not going to compete for things. Buster Posey, on the other hand, has won 3 World Series titles. He's got an MVP. He's got a Rookie of the Year. He's got multiple batting titles, Gold Gloves, all those different things. He's got nothing left to prove. He's got a big-time contract. The best thing for him was to be home, and he decided, I need to be home. It's not worth going there when I can be here doing these things. I don't have anything left, again, to prove to anybody. And you got to respect all those different things, because again, it's a tough situation to be in. A lot of us, I know, we work. I got to go to work every single week, right? I go to work either 4 days or 3 days a week for 12 plus hour periods, and that's things I have to do, right? But if I was given the option where I didn't have to do those things, and I had things at home that were more urgent than being out there, it becomes a little bit different situation to think of. Moving on from that, so you've had a lot of players opt out. You've had some players test positive, and it has affected the season. It's going to affect the season as we move forward. That's the reality of things. We don't know what's going to happen, but think about a team. So you have some fringe teams. Look at the East. The East is a very, very deep division, the AL and the NL. You have some really good teams. Say the Braves do figure some things out. They start getting going. They're playing pretty well. They're right in the thick of things because they are that talented. And they get another hit from COVID. They get another freaking few players backing out, and it hurts them. They end up losing 9 out of 10. That's tough to come back from in a 60-game season. So we don't know the full effect that it's going to have. We do know teams have been affected so far, and we do know that it's a possibility. The bright side of these things. The bright side of these things is we do know that, so since the resumption of spring training, this is per Bob Nightingale on Twitter, there have been 17,949 samples and 23 positive tests in those samples, which is a 0.1% positivity rate. Most of them, 18, are players where the 5 staff members have also tested positive. It's also announced that by Major League Baseball and Major League Baseball Players Association that there has been 10,548 samples taken just last week, and 0.05 of them have been positive for COVID-19. 5 were players and 1 were staff members. So what you're seeing is you have a lot more people testing positive before they started reporting and all these things took place, and now you're having even less test positive. Again, the question becomes, though, now we're going to see teams travel, right? Now the Yankees are going from the Bronx to Queens, not as far of a travel as some of these other teams, but you are also seeing Cleveland travel to Pittsburgh, and tomorrow is going to be more and more teams, right? Philly, Washington's also happening today, where Philadelphia is going to Washington. Again, they're not far moves. Then you got Baltimore, Philly, still pretty close. You have the Diamondbacks coming from Arizona, a hotbed, to LA, a hotbed on Sunday. You have the White Sox teams, again, cross rivalry happening. You go to Monday, you got Houston going up to Kansas City. You have Washington and Baltimore, again, right next to each other. Philly going all the way up to New York. Arizona Diamondbacks versus Dodgers again. 2 Chicago teams. The Angels going down to the Padres, and the Giants Angels playing each other. That's happening on Monday. They're going to start to travel a little bit more, right? Toronto's going to Boston. The Angels Dodgers, again, pretty close. You have the Tigers going to Cincinnati. You have Miami going all the way up to Atlanta. You have the Rockies going down to Texas. So things are going to be happening here soon. We're going to start seeing them today. Again, minimal travel today, but it's going to start to get more teams traveling as we go forward. And that's the question. How is that going to affect things? Because now you're no longer going from your home or your hotel to the office, basically, with the field, day in and day out. You're not having your separate clubhouses going on, because they are turning those clubhouses into their own personal locker rooms, because they're not really doing like a whole locker room thing. Those things are going to change when other teams are now involved. It's not going to be one team kind of running everything within itself. How is that going to affect the testing? So, very, very encouraging signs, yes. Extremely encouraging signs. Another encouraging sign you have is that players are asking their teammates to, hey, this is part of a team. Come on, guys, let's get together on this. Let's do this for a team. You look at where the Indians are at. They have Cookie Carrasco, who last year missed most of the season because he was battling cancer. They're saying, let's do it for Cookie, right? Let's not risk this thing. Let's wear our masks. Let's social distance. Let's not go anywhere that we don't need to be for this time. It's only a few months. Let's do this for the few months and let's go win. Let's do it for baseball. Let's do it for our teammates. Let's do it for other players around the league that are high risk. You look at Kenley Jansen of the Dodgers as well. He had heart surgery. He tested positive before, but he's still considered extremely high risk. David Dahl in Colorado, he's extremely high risk. And you're just looking around the league, and there's multiple other players that are considered high risk because they do have some medical history, right? And they may not have the immune system as some of the other players. It could affect them more because nobody knows. That's the thing about this whole COVID thing, is that nobody really knows how it's going to affect people. If it could be someone that's perfectly natural, healthy, has no problems at all, and they get hit hard. They end up being hospitalized for a little bit. You have somebody who is considered high risk, and it doesn't affect them all. They're asymptomatic, right? Most of these tests have been asymptomatic, thankfully. But the last thing we need is like an outbreak among a team or a player to really take a turn for the worse. It's the last thing that we want to see in baseball. There has been some good news on the front, finding medicine and cures. There has been some really, really good positive notes that I've seen and I've read in various different locations from different sources saying that they are having some trials that have responded very, very strongly to COVID-19, and they have started to figure out how this virus is mutating within a body, and now they're having to start to send it out to other people, and they have to get it peer reviewed. It has to do all these different things. They have to have bigger sample sizes before it becomes official, and that does take time, and that will take some more time, but we do see some positive steps within that. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen before the season's out, right? It could happen in September, could happen in October, could happen next year. Nobody really knows. There's no official timetable. There's no deadline for it. It's just when it happens, it happens. When we have a cure, we have a cure. But for now, this is the press release right here. I'm going to put it up on the screen from Major League Baseball Players Association, resulting the latest COVID-19 test results. Major League Baseball Players Association jointly announced today the latest COVID-19 testing results under Major League Baseball's COVID-19 health monitoring and testing plans through the end of Thursday, July 16th. Monitoring and testing. Covered individuals are now in monitor testing, which tests players and other Tier 1 individuals each every other day, and the Tier 2 individuals multiple times per week. To date, the results of the monitor testing are as follows. The number of monitored samples collected and tested in the past week was 10,548. 6 of these 10,548, which is 0.05%, have been positive. The past week included a 5-day period in which no new positives were reported, which is very encouraging. 5 of the 6 positives were players, and 1 was a staff member. The total number of monitored samples collected and tested have been 17,949. 23 of those 17,949 samples, which is 0.1%, have been new positives. 18 of the 23 positive tests have been players, and 5 have been staff members. 13 different clubs have had a covered individual test positive during monitor testing. All testing to date combine the total of previous completed intake screenings and ongoing monitor testing. The results are as follows. The total number of new positive tests is 93, which is 0.4% of the 21,701 samples since the beginning of the intake screening on June 27th. Among the 93 positives, 80 have been players, 13 have been staff members. Note that there were 4 additional intake screening positives reported after July 9th as a result of the additional players being added to the club player pools. 28 different clubs have been covered, individual test positive in the intake screening or during monitor testing. Again, all encouraging signs. And then another thing to point out while we're reading this is you see that staff members. And that's another thing we're got to remember is that it's not just the players doing their part. It's not just the players that are in and out all the time, right? You're starting to see players be sent down. As you see people get hurt and test positive, you're going to see them be brought back. That's going to be an issue, but you also have all the staff members. We talked about Chico being a clubhouse attendant. There's other people. You have groundskeepers. You have the people that make sure that they're the cleaning people. You have the clubhouse attendants. You have all the different, there's a lot of things going on. And as these things start to begin to be filmed, right, as there are live streamed, and you have the the video and the audio going on, that's even more people in the clubhouse. Now, ESPN has announced that they're going to be doing the commentating from their home office in Bristol, Connecticut, so they won't actually be there. But a lot of people will be in the booth. There will be people in the booth. It won't be like it is normally where it's crowded all the time, but there will be people there. So it's more than just the players. There's a lot to be considered and taken in during this time as they try to move through the season. All that being said, though, again, there has been positive signs, and I know, like many players are, like many people are, very, very excited for Thursday. I'm very excited for the season to get started. We're almost there. And as the season goes, I'm going to do my best to give you an episode every Saturday, not only just talking about what's going on in the field, but I do want to continue the player series that I've been doing. I want to do an episode on Roberto Clemente next. That's another guy, right? Satchel Paige, Roberto Clemente, some of these greats that most people know the name, but do they know the story? And I want to dive into the story, and I want to know more, and I want to share that with you guys. So that will be the next episode as far as the player series goes. We're going to wrap this episode up right now. I'm going to do a quick prediction. I'm going to have it up on the screen. I'm going to tell you who I think is going to win. I did do the MVPs and Cy Youngs on the podcast audio if you want to watch that or listen to that. I'd like to do both. I like to do them differently, though. I don't want to be the same episode. I want you guys just watching the exact same episode I'm putting out. I want it to be somewhat different, right? I wanted them to have their own little twists on them. Of course, the player series, there's not much I can do. I try to do little different things like mid-episode breaks, but for the most part, they're going to be the same episode. But for these ones, when they're pertaining to the game being played and the players and all those different things, I do want them to be different. So this episode, if you listen to the audio, just the podcast version, is completely different. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's do some predictions. Let's get out of here. So here's my prediction. I'm going to make them quick and get out of here. I like the Dodgers in the West. They're too talented. They're too deep. They got Tony Gonsolin moving down to an alternate training site right now, and he could probably be a extremely talented pitcher at back-end rotation or a long reliever for most teams in Major League Baseball, and they'd have no spot for him. He's not the only one. Josiah Gray, if you watch the Pitching Ninja on Twitter and on Instagram, big fan of the Pitching Ninja, he's all over it. For good reason. He's not going to make the team because he's younger, he's still developing. He will be a big part of their future, don't get me wrong, but there's no room for him right now. It's tough. The team is just so talented. Dusty May is not going to be in their rotation. He's going to be filtered in and out. He's going to help, I think, Buehler move along early in the first 2 weeks. He may be sent down after the first 2 weeks. They're just so deep and they're so talented. In the AL side, I'm going to go with Oakland. I like the A's in the short season. I like the arms that they got, the young arms. I like the defense they have. I think they have with some pop. Houston is talented. The Angels are talented. The Rangers are talented. I'm not confident about the AL pick, right? All those teams they're very good. They all have reasons to be excited. They all have reasons to be concerned. At the same, right? Because I can talk about the Astros and how this offseason has affected them and their mentality. I can talk about how they lost Cole and now their pitching staff is left a little bit in shambles. You still have Verlander, who's the AL Cy Young Award winner, still going to be racking up the strikeouts like crazy. You have Zach Greinke there, but Zach Greinke is a creature of habit. He always has been. How does the short season affect him? You have Jose Urquidy, who hasn't showed up. You have Lance McCullers, who's coming back. You don't know what you're going to get. What do they do behind the two frontrunners, actually, and what do they do in the bullpen? That's going to be questions that need to be answered. They do have the talent to still, again, run away with it, but I don't know if I'm sold on that. You have, again, the A's, you could pick any of those teams. The Angels have problems with pitching. They have the Rangers, who have some struggles with defense and with getting their best players to stay in the lineup and not be hurt. Going to be a lot of questions that need to be answered still. You go to the Central, I'm going to go with both the Ohio teams. I like Cincinnati. I like that they were a really good team last year and that they've made more progress building that team than any other team in that division. Right? You have St. Louis, who's really good. the defending division champions. They could easily win that division. I think the Central and the NL side is going to be a battle. I think it's going to be a battle on the AL side. You have the Indians, who I'm going to pick because they are a 90-plus win team. I think people are sleeping on them a bit. You have Minnesota, who was a 100-win team last year, and that lineup is just deadly. Added Josh Donaldson to it. You have the White Sox, who made a lot of really good moves, who has a lot of talent there. The bottom of those divisions aren't going to be as good, right? And I don't know. So the NL, I think teams are going to battle out for who wins the division. I don't know if any of those teams are legitimate title contenders. Where you go to the AL side, I think the Indians, I think the Twins can make some noise in the postseason if they get there. Now, Twins didn't do that last year, but I think they can do a little bit better this year if they get back. But the AL side, more contenders. NL side, not as good of teams. But it's going to be a battle there because they are really similarly matched. None of them are bad teams. There's no real bad teams in the Central outside of the Royals, who have some young talent. Jorge Soler, Whit Merrifield, Hunter Dozier could cause some issues for some teams. You go to the East. The East is also tricky. So the NL West is the easiest one to pick. The rest of them, you know what? It's so hard to. If it was a long season, it would be easier to pick. But because it's a shortened season, because you see some of these talents, some of these deficiencies can be covered up by some hot bats or some hot arms. And that's why I'm so excited. That's why most people are so excited. We couldn't do this type of season every year, but having it for 1 year, I'm all here for it. So in the AL on the East, even though Austin Meadows, a big blow, tested positive for COVID-19, I think he will be back, maybe miss the first week of the season. Their arms, they just have too many of them for a 6-game season. They have too many 95+ mile per hour arms with some tail. They're going to be tough to beat in a 60-game season, I'm sorry. The Rays, I think, win the East. I think people are pumping up the Yankees. I think they're a little overrated this season. Not to say that they're not World Series title contenders. Not to say that they can't lose the division and still win the World Series. But they're not this unstoppable force as some people are making them out to be. And the Rays are underappreciated. The Rays are a really, really good team. They may be the second best team in the American League if you think the Yankees are the best team. And you can make a valid argument for that, right, at this moment. I really like the Rays in the East. I'm curious to see what Toronto does with that young team, and because they're going to be good in a couple years, right? The young talent there is too good. They don't know any better, and they go out and they start beating teams that maybe they weren't supposed to, because that's what young teams do at times in a 60-game season. So I think I'm excited to see Toronto do that. Boston, a lot of really good bats in that lineup. A lot of really good bats. Problem is, who's going to throw for them? We don't really know. Chris Sale's out. Eduardo Rodriguez has tested positive. He's out for a little bit. Don't know when he's going to be back. You're going to be looking at some other pitchers who have talent but have been hurt and have been inconsistent. Nathan Eovaldi is going to probably lead that rotation until Erod comes back. You'd like to side on with him, right? He was a World Series hero in 2018. Extremely talented as far as the arm goes. Can he stay consistent? Can he stay healthy? That's going to be a big question for them. They don't really have much bullpen arms, but maybe they slug their way through 60 games and they make a run at the postseason. That could very well happen. I still think it's going to be Rays and Yankees on that side, with the Rays winning the division. Then you go to the East with the NL, and this one is tricky. Now, the Braves are the most talented team, but they have been hit the hardest as far as this COVID goes during the season. They're a young team. Can those young arms carry them as their bats start to figure it out? Can Ronald Acuna help carry them as their bats start to figure things out? Freddie Freeman's getting back in the thick of things. They're talented enough to still win that division because they're just that good. The Nationals, I don't think the Nationals ranked dead last in every single statistical category as far as the bullpen goes last year. Dead last. They won a World Series, yes. They ranked dead last in every bullpen. The bullpens are going to be huge this season. Still, they have the best rotation arguably in baseball. Their rotation is just deadly, right? But the bats, you lost Rendon. Yes, you have Soto. Yes, you have a few of these other guys still, but you had a lot of guys hitting better than their talent suggests. So you're going to be leaning on a very young Juan Soto still. I get what he did in the World Series. Still very young. You're going to be leaning on a very young Trey Turner. Who else hits with them? There's no Zim. There's no Rendon. I don't know. I'm not sold on the Nationals. That being said, they have a very, very light schedule to start the season. They can get hot to start the season. And if they get into the postseason, they can do what they did last year. They are better built for a postseason in a small series than they are for a season, for a real season, right? For a series, they're better built for a series than they are for a season. So if they get into the playoffs, look at all bets are off. They could win the whole thing again. I don't know if they have the talent to actually get into the postseason, though. You could get in at Philly. What does Philly do? They have Aaron Nola. They have Zach Wheeler that they just signed for that rotation. Can Nola stay healthy? Can he stay consistent? Can Wheeler stay out there? You look at also Jake Arrieta. If he can stay out there, now you have 3 decent pitchers there, with Aaron Nola being obviously the ace, one of the better pitchers that people don't talk about. You have Bryce Harper, who looks hungry. You have JT Realmuto. You have Rhys Hoskins. You have a lot of talent in Philly. Now you have Didi Gregorius. Now you have a manager that can lead them to there. I like Philly. I'm taking Philly. I know it's a surprise pick and a spoiler pick, but in a shortened season, I'm going to go with Philly. I think they're hungry. I think they're a team that wants to prove they can compete at this level. I think they're going to do it for this season. They may not do it next year, but I think that for this year, they're going to do it. So just to recap, as I've been rambling, sorry, I'm excited. I'm excited for a 60-game season. We're going to go with the Dodgers and A's on the West Coast. We're going to go with the 2 Ohio teams in Cincinnati and in Cleveland for the Central. And we're going to go with the Rays and with the Phillies in the East. Now for the wild card teams, I made some predictions in the podcast version. It's so hard. There's so many good teams. I think the Yankees make it, right? It's hard to keep them completely out of the postseason. I think they may miss out on the division crown, but I think it's going to be by a game or 2, and both those teams are going to have 2 of the best records in all the league. So Yankees and Rays both can make the playoffs. The other wildcard team, you can say, right, Minnesota. This one's tough. Minnesota, Chicago, the White Sox. You have the Astros and the Angels on the other side. It's up for grabs, so I'll let you guys pick that one. On the National League side, I think the Braves are too talented not to miss the postseason. I think they squeak in a wild card team, and then I don't know, because the Central, the Diamondbacks and the Rockies. If the Rockies pitching can get going, if Kyle Freeland can figure things out, go with Herman Marquez, they can get those things going. They're trying to turn their bullpen around. They got rid of a couple guys, McGee and Shaw, who they paid a lot of money last offseason. Didn't work out last year. They just cut him recently. They bring in Daniel Bard, who is a great comeback story, a really, really cool one to see. And you add a few different pieces, so they may make some noise this year. They're still really talented as far as defense and offense goes. So you look at them, you look at the Diamondbacks. You look at the Central, you have the Cardinals, you have the Brewers, you have the Cubs, right? The East, you still have the Mets, who are a better team than people think. It's going to be jumbled. Either way, in a 60-game series, there's a reason why we play 162 games. 60-game season, it's going to be jumbled, those last couple teams. I really like my top 4 in the AL. Don't know who 5, or I like my top 5. I like my top 4. I don't know who 5 is going to be. Sorry. In the National League, I like my top 3. I don't know who the wild card teams are going to be. I'm going to say Braves. I'm going to take my top 4 and I'll let you guys decide 5. But I'm going to quit rambling. I'm going to get out of this episode. I hope you guys enjoy this primer as we get ready for baseball. We're almost there. Thursday, July 23rd, baseball season will start, and it's going to be a sprint. 60 games, 66 days, heading to October. We're going to get through this. We're going to get some baseball. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hope you guys enjoy it.